You have to work at it, and I'm not very good at it. I tend to ad lib a lot, which is why when I'm preparing for a role or something that takes place in a period, I have a tendency to research the period and the mannerisms of the speech and the words that the slang they might have used or anything like that, because I have a tendency to ad lib quite a bit, because it's one movie. You make three movies when you make a film: the one you write, the one you perform and execute, and the one that you edit. So sometimes the one you write isn't always perfect to the one that you're executing, and there's spaces that need to be filled, and those spaces need to be filled by dialogue or an action or something like that. So I have a tendency to ad lib a lot, which is easier for me because it makes it real, because it's spontaneous and I'm asking for a reaction from an actor I would hope is listening to me. Occasionally you have an actor who's just there to do their lines and they don't even listen to you, which means they're not even in the scene.
And this is why, he's a genius in the craft because he understands the craft based on what he's just sent. And let's not get it twisted, his personal life, his scandals. I'm not here to talk about that, really. Um, I'm here to talk about him as a person who is involved within film and acting. And here we have another Disney kid, unlike most Disney kids, that can actually act, that actually has skill and understands the craft that is acting. No school, no academy that he graduated from. A guy who learned the craft on the job, and he started out in Even Stevens, Disney Channel, gimmick 2.0. We know how Disney works. And Hollywood essentially marketed him. Hollywood essentially branded him as Steven Spielberg's prodigy because Steven Spielberg saw what he was doing in Even Stevens and he knew it was good enough to be in a high studio budget film like Transformers. And they were pushing him also in Indiana Jones. They were pushing him to be like a movie star, like of a actor, like the Michael Douglases, like the Harrison Fords, but essentially he wanted to be an actor and an actor only. Hence why he said after Transformers franchise that he crashed out and he went spiral and out of control and alcohol, and that's just how it is, in Hollywood. When they push you to be a certain brand and they push a certain PR on you and you feel like you're not with that PR, it can get emotionally exhausting, to the point where most of these celebrities spiral out of control, just to stay relevant because they got to stick to a script even for their own branding. But, anyways, but besides those things, Shia has played a lot of interesting characters. All his characters have certain unpredictability about them. And that's just based on how he prepares and commits himself to each of these characters. He's played in A Little Brother. He's played a fast talking teenager. He's played a Wall Street trader. He's played a World War II tank gunner. And he's also played his own father. Guys, this is deep stuff on his CV. And all of his performances, you see a man who throws himself and disappears within most of his characters, whether we like it or not. He throws his body and soul without fear or hesitation, and this man treats the art of acting like a battlefield essentially, and you feel it watching him. A lot of Disney kids that come out of the Disney camp, they just don't know the chops and the skills. They don't really understand it. Shia actually took it upon himself to read a lot of books and understand the craft whilst being, promoted into this Hollywood machine and pushed to be a certain, face and a certain marketing and a brand. But people joke and meme about his style and commitment, saying he's a method actor who goes way too far when really he's just doing his fucking job as an actor that's doing all that is required of you to make the audience believe that you're essentially someone else. And let me give it to you straight, guys. Method actors are high risk, high reward actors. Think of the Marlon Brandos, think of the Robert De Niro's, think of your Denzel Washingtons. They're all method actors. They're just very emotionally controlled. Shia LaBeouf is a bit of a crash out, yes, but that doesn't take away his genius behind the method. Okay, um, essentially, guys, a method actor is someone who uses their personal memories, emotions, and physical sensations to create genuine, realistic performances instead of just pretending. This is what I mean by he's just doing his job. Okay, and the thing is, the misconception about method acting, nah, is that the media portrays it as a plot to disharness the actor's, brand, whatever the case. When method acting is a skill, it's an acting skill. Hollywood media wants you to think that method means off screen behavior or staying in character 24/7. That is a personal choice that the actor does, because the actor knows how to control, how to have emotional control of their character. Although Shia is a crash out, he has emotional control of his character, which is why he does method. Only skilled actors do method. You understand what I'm saying? Zendaya ain't doing this method thing because she ain't skillful enough. Okay, Zach Efron ain't doing this method thing because he ain't skillful enough. So did Selena Gomez. You get the case with these Disney actors. Shia is essentially the golden goose of those Disney actors. He's the only actor who can actually act coming out of Disney. We go to Even Stevens, his first breakout role in which he won his first Emmy, which was well deserved, unlike Zendaya. 3 seasons of an actor with impressive emotional depth at his age, using light-hearted material such as Even Stevens, an actor who had no experience prior to the show, but yet somehow outclassed every other performer on the show who claimed to have done it longer than he had an impressive comedic timing and line delivery in his first ever comedic role. And we all know as actors how hard it is to perform comedy. It's difficult. This guy, essentially, this kid who used to be a stand-up comedian, you know, coming up from Hollywood, did a comedic role and absolutely smoked it. He was very fit, big, like very big physically with his hand gestures over the top of his body and voice. His voice was changing often the times, which I thought was very good, for certain dramatic scenes, which worked for the writing material of the show. And, it was great. Essentially, this is the reason why skillful actors, although they promote themselves to win an Emmy, and they have to, they have to throw CVs and presentations and all sorts of PR things to win an Emmy. This was actually deserved because he actually has chops, people. Holes is essentially one of those childhood movies that everybody loves and adores, and his performance is so memorable here. Great emotional control. He plays innocence and the boy wanting to fit in a new environment very well. His chemistry with other actors was supremely on point, especially with the timing and the delivering of the lines, because of his skill of listening to other actors in a scene. This was the start of Shia essentially carrying movies. And then we move on to Disturbia with him doing another carry job. In my opinion, one of the best coming of age films yet. And Shia plays a teen placed on house arrest, where he then starts spying on his neighbors, hoping to spice up his life. And the way he plays boredom, the fear and shock of finding out that one of his neighbors is a serial killer is done so well because of the subtlety and the control in which he does it, especially for film acting. Timing of it feels right in almost every scene. He understands that the character is going through grief after losing his father. Spoiler. And that's what draws you to his performance, the way he handles grief through boredom, fear, shock, and curiosity. Playing boredom is something hard for actors, such as playing, a comedic role and being funny. And this man, like I said, he does it like it's natural to him. We move on to the Transformers franchise, people, and listen. Sam Witwicky, from the first movie, you can sense the weight on his shoulders through his performance, the fear and anxiety of having this life of having to babysit Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. The second movie, he built the same, but he just added a bit of growth in terms of the adultery of the boy heading towards college. The fear, anxiety is still there, but now it is heightened to a level of emotional control where it's now a matter of crashing out because he sees symbols in his mind, and the actor performs it so well. In the third Transformers, he carries the growth of the character very well when he transitions to corporate lifestyle, finding a job, and it feels relatable to realistic aspects of someone looking for a job in the corporate life. And that's what so iconic about all three of these performances. He establishes growth within Sam Witwicky. When Michael Bay added this pussyo Mark Wahlberg, it essentially destroyed the whole Transformers franchise. But we'll talk about that when Mark Wahlberg has his day on this series, people. And you talk about, a Disney kid who can play along other top elite actors like the Tom Hardy in Lawless. You know how he plays the young brother role, and how his emotional depth and timing essentially carries him throughout his scenes with Tom Hardy, and how he can carry himself as a young actor with an elite, you know, performer like Tom. And in Fury, man, yet again, schools Brad Pitt, in his own movie. He essentially was the key anchor in terms of building the chemistry with everyone who played their roles in that tank, pulling out his tooth, scratching out his face. This was unorthodox to the media, but this is essentially was a personal choice by the performer to essentially give us a genuine performance, in which it was a very memorable performance till this day, something that Zendaya cannot do, people. Other honorable mentions are the tax collector. As soon as he died out of this movie, or they killed off his character, the movie essentially tanked and just became boring. Honestly, he was entertaining. The fact that he played a gangster and it wasn't marketable through Hollywood was essentially, Hollywood doing the, favoritism bullshit that they always do when other movies are being released in the same year of other competitive movies. You see what I'm saying? And also, essentially, they weren't budgeted enough for this film, but Shia did his thing once again. Oh, yes, he did extremely extreme methods of method outside of this movie. But hey, I do not agree with them, nor do I, you know, think that it is good for you to be doing such a thing to other things and species for a movie role. I think that was low of him, but yet the commitment and the determination to join a gang and understand that lifestyle essentially is what made him perform this role very well. I'm not gonna even lie to y'all, people. And the Peter Butter Falcon, was just a heartwarming film, very wholesome stuff. Probably his most wholesome work that he's ever produced ever. It wasn't so dark, he used other actors and their chemistry to elevate his character and his character's arc, and his character also recovering from grief. I felt like he played grief much different from how he played grief in Disturbia, being an adult now, being going through his personal issues that he went through. He kind of used all that grief and put it in this character. Again, you can do method by doing that, using your own personal emotions and attracting it through the characters that you play. And he essentially, throughout all of his filmography and his career, understands the craft of acting. He understands it. Most of these Disney kids, they don't get it. They don't get the emotional depth, switching from quiet to sad moments to loud, angry bursts, outbursts to complete truth, physical and vocal changes, altering how they walk, how they talk, how they hold their body and soul. Like, these are things that make a lot of Shia's performances very iconic and very memorable. You know what I'm saying? And like, unlike Zach Efron, Zendaya, Selena Gomez, and most of these kids who come out of Disney, the Ryan Gosling, this guy essentially chooses roles that are not very media friendly. They're roles that are not very marketable throughout the industry. But there are roles that are essentially truthful to him as an artist, as a performer. And hey, we just gotta respect that. As an actor myself and as a performer myself, I just also gotta respect that. And that's what we gotta talk about here. We ain't gotta talk about his personal behaviors and his personal life, because we know these Disney kids are crash outs. These Disney kids come from abusive and shameless families. And I'm gonna give the brother some break, having a video where we just talk about his skill, that is being a wizard in the game of acting. Like and subscribe.